Hey, welcome to Dad Space, the podcast for dads by dads. I'm glad you're here. I hope things are going well. We're getting close. It's June, the beginning of June, and Father's Day is coming up really closely. So I hope you're looking forward to, again, more underwear, more socks, a tie that's going to go straight into your closet, maybe some hugs, and maybe a waffle. I'm just putting that at waffles. I'm just subtly saying the word waffle because my wife Jen may or may not hear this episode, so subtly putting in the words waffle into this just to kind of, put the word waffle out there. Father's Day is coming up, waffle, and it's the time when we celebrate dads. And I hope that you have an amazing Father's Day this year, 2025, full of waffles and lots of good things. Again, waffle. And I'm glad you're here. So I wanted to chat with you about something that I saw recently that really made me stop, pause, and think of you. There's a podcaster named Theo Vaughn, very popular podcaster. Hi, Theo Vaughn. And it's not a show that I frequent often, but there's clips that show up on your social media, TikTok and all that. And when Theo was talking recently about his struggle as he relates to his father and kind of all of that, unpacking it in real time with us, when we see some of these creators online, we see them having fun, joking around with their guests, just being kind of like, yeah, okay. And you don't really see another side of them. You don't see a depth to their internal struggles, what they're working through in real time. And what really caught me was how real this particular clip is. I'll put a link for you so you can watch the entire thing. But I brought out a few clips from this because I think, it's going to help you as a dad to see how we can be better. And as a kid who has a dad, whether your dad is here or not, alive or not part of your life, your response as a kid to how you treated your parents and maybe how you're treating your parents right now, specifically your dad, and maybe if there's something that you could have done better. And one of the lines, and I put it as the title of the episode for you today, I wish someone told me to have more pride in my family when I was younger. It's one of the key moments for me when I listened to Theo kind of unpack this on his show. So I wanted to share little clips with you, and then I'll jump back in and kind of give my thoughts as well. Kind of lead the conversation, but yeah, it's pretty interesting. Again, I would tell you to go watch the entirety of this clip in particular from his show. Even if you're not a big Theo Vaughn podcast listener, I think there's some value here. And I really, really think it could open some conversation between you and your family, your partner, your kids, your dad. And I hope this serves you as we prepare for Father's Day 2025 and some stuff from Theo. So let's jump in. My dad passed away many years ago. He had skin cancer, basically, and he left us in a really painful state. He himself was in a lot of pain. And I remember him telling me over coffee early in his diagnosis that he was scared. And in that moment, I saw my dad as a human being, not just some parent figure authority in my life. And I was in my 20s, mid-late 20s, when we sat down and had this conversation over coffee at a local coffee shop. But there was a fear behind his eyes in that he knew that there was only so many days. Only so many more conversations, only so many more coffees. And I didn't know how to handle it at the time because I was a new dad, young family, career, finding my way in the world, building my parenting, figuring out how to be a dad, minus a Dad Space podcast. I was just caught up in trying to be a great husband, trying to be a great father, trying to be a great employee, doing all the things. And then to see my dad struggle with his health just made me pause. I can take you to the same 2 seats in that specific coffee shop where we sat and had that conversation. And I drive by there often and go, oh, every time I go by that place, that one, I know that we had those conversations and in that location. And it's hard to go back in there because my mind is fixated and my eyes are fixated on those 2 empty seats where my dad sat and where I sat and where we had this conversation. So when I had that in my mind when I'm hearing Theo Von kind of unpack his thoughts around his relationship with his father. What's interesting is there was a significant age gap between Theo as a kid and the age of his dad. His father would be the age of your grandfather, not your father. So he really struggled with identity, connection, so many things about his relationship with his father, to the point where he has many regrets and things he's working through in real time. And he does that in this clip that I'm going to break into pieces for you. But I saw myself in Theo sitting in that coffee shop with my dad, trying to grasp time and the lack thereof and how quickly it goes by. And understanding that my dad was a human, living a human experience in front of me, not just some, again, authority over me or leader or somebody. He was a human being with fears, joys, questions, and he himself was living his life as a dad in real time. He wasn't an expert. None of us are. And we're all living it in real time. So your kids look at you as you are at the finish line. You're a dad. But a finish line for you are a dad is a starting point from being a young man with very little responsibilities in life to becoming the leader of a house and the main support for your partner and being the authority and the one that gives direction to your home for your kids. Your kids see you in that role like you've attained it, but you're just learning it in real time. And I think what Theo unpacks for us in these clips you're going to hear are segments of him grappling with his relationship with his father, grappling with his responses to his father and what he could have done better. And I think there's some really amazing little chunks in here for us to digest and to share with those we love. So let's get into the conversation with Theo.
In this 12-step stuff that I'm doing, they have, you talk about family and people you have resentments against and things that are buried inside of you that can that can affect the way you behave daily, but you don't realize it. It's not like they're treasures, but you don't realize they're treasures at first. Because resentments, they can really, it's like a little edge inside of you where it's supposed to be a curve. And so everything that goes around there is choppy. Every time your thoughts or your feelings pass through that canal of that journey within you, if you're thinking about something that even is related to, a previous experience you had that you didn't like, or a person that you don't like, or a family member, a loved one, or a parent or whatever, you have a resentment. So then anytime something else comes up that would kind of use one of the same streets in your brain or your feelings, it'll, instead of it being a curve, it'll be a 90-degree angle, and it's choppy. They're like speed bumps for the way that you can love others. To me anyway, I can't love people as well if I have these speed bumps in me. Resentments, anger, things, previous experiences that are rough, that make my road rough and make it rough for me to bring anybody down the road.
So as I listen to that, I'm thinking about those speed bumps and those resentments and those things that hold us back, those things that keep us from communicating, those things that keep us from reaching out, those things that keep us from accepting people who reach out to us. All of those things are things that we process in real time, but we don't really come up with answers for these things. We don't really seek answers for these things. We tolerate them because they are who we are and it's our experience, and we don't know anything better. But there is something better. And that's what I love about how Theo is going to walk us through his real-time unpacking and plan to move forward when dealing with these resentments. He continues on.
You know, I love my dad. I'm grateful for him. But I've also always been a little bit angry at him. I didn't realize it. I was always angry because I didn't know him very well. You know, I was 16 when he passed away and he was 86. You know, I was angry because I didn't know him because he didn't know me. And then I realized that I really kind of judged my father. Like, I didn't realize it. I always thought that one of the reasons we didn't know each other very well was because of the age gap. But I really started to think back more on it, and one of the reasons also we didn't know each other very well was because I really judged him. You know, I really judged him for being so old. I mean, other kids would make fun of him, and then I kind of made fun of him. And I think sometimes I didn't even try to get to know him. Even though I was young, it wasn't my responsibility, really. It wasn't an ideal situation. But I didn't really try to get to know him. You know, and I would make the excuse, well, he shouldn't have had a kid when he was that old, you know? What was he thinking? Well, that's true. But if he doesn't have that, I don't exist. There's validity there to that argument, but he gave me my existence, however way it happened. You know, he really gave me the most important gift, which is my experience of the world. And I judged him so much and kind of that I didn't really get to know him. You know, there were times he probably thought sometimes, wow, maybe my son he's not interested, or I think maybe I was afraid to get to know him because I knew he was going to pass away. So it was probably like safer to not get to know him, you know?
So when I hear him talk about creating distance between him and his father, my oldest son took Taekwondo for years, got his black belt, and one of the things they teach you in Taekwondo is when you're confronted by someone is to create distance. And when you have distance, you have options. But sometimes when we create distance, we just create distance, and there are no options. We're not aware of the options, and we don't leverage the opportunity to use the options. So when I hear him talking like this and unpacking this, I hear regret. I hear, I had an opportunity. My dad was older. I could have spent more time with him. I could have had a stronger relationship, but he didn't give me as much as I needed as a son. And so then I held back as well, which then both people lose in that situation. And I think that's the one thing when I listen to Theo go through this, I see it in my own relationships with my kids. There's a reciprocating relationship going on here. And if one holds back from the other, then the other doesn't know what to do in that situation, and then maybe will also hold back. And now you have two people in a stalemate. Nobody's stepping up, nobody's trying, and distance happens. And when distance happens, then communication breaks down. Communication breaks down, and then you don't see each other. You don't see each other, and time passes. And that's where the regret creeps in, is none of this has to happen, like at all. And the only people who can fix it are the two people who create the space.
You know, and I could have had more memories with him if I hadn't judged my father so much. You know, he wasn't like this, or he couldn't do this. He didn't have anything. You know, I just think I'm not mad at myself. I want you to know that I'm not like, you know, I think I could have been a better son to him, you know, and I know the circumstances weren't ideal, but I just maybe could have been a better son to him sometimes, you know. I could have had more pride. I wish somebody had taught me to have more pride in my family when I was young, because I didn't know.
No, that's the part that got me right there. We talk about pride being the downfall. Pride comes before a fall and all of that stuff. But being proud of your family, being proud of your dad, being proud of your kids, it's just those words keep bouncing in my brain as I think about them.
I could have had more pride. I wish somebody had taught me to have more pride in my family when I was young, because I didn't know.
I think that's the regret of a son that you're hearing there in real time. That this was a missed opportunity. His dad is gone, and he wishes he could go back and fix that. Fix that relationship, fix the conversation, remove the silence, remove the regrets, or at least minimize them and not let them rob him of time. And that's the one thing every one of us is battling. Everyone, you, me, our kids, everything. It's all around time. There is not an infinite amount of time for us. There is not this never-ending line that trails off long into the distance and you can never see it end. There is an end. There is a finality to that. And in that is where regret that has been suppressed and shelved like books on a shelf begin to open themselves up and expose themselves. When we realize, sitting across from your father, that he's afraid of his cancer diagnosis, that is when you go, oh my gosh, it's real. And then all of these things that you're hearing Theo unpack for you become reality when you live by regrets and silence.
My father he could have done a better job by helping me have a sense of pride in our family. And maybe he tried, and sometimes things just are the way they are. But I never realized that I was angry at my dad until I wrote down this resentment thing. It says I'm angry at my father, and then I have to write why I'm angry at him. So I have to really sit there and think. And I was angry at him because I didn't know him. I never got to know him. But yeah, I was ashamed of my father. And then I just realized that I miss him, I realized that I judged him. And I realized by looking through some of the things that I was just pretty judgmental. And I don't know where that judgment came from or how it started. I'm not ashamed of him. I'm not mad at myself of it. I'm not. But I'm glad that I'm able to see it a little bit now.
I love how unscripted this is. It's just Theo talking on the mic. There's lots of pauses. There's lots of reflection. There's him formulating his thoughts in real time. And that's what I wanted you to hear this, and for you to then put yourself into a similar position where you are reflective and you spend some time thinking, maybe not recording a podcast like Theo Vaughn, but you thinking your way through your relationship with your dad or with your kids, no matter who's listening to this, and how you can go this Father's Day starting a new communication and a new path, potentially, in your relationships, starting this year, starting now.
I'm blessed to be able to feel. I'm happy to be able to even feel things. I'm like, what's beautiful for me right now is I get to still have a feeling about my father. And it's so funny. As soon as I started making this list the other day and thinking about this stuff, immediately a lot more memories of my father came into me and in my brain in a more comfortable space. A lot more things came into me where in the memories I was more loving of him now, even immediately, than I was like, the meetings were softer. They had the memories were softer. They had more of a curve to them. It just wasn't such just a little bit of less 90-degree angles around my heart.
I like that he keeps going back to the angles and the curve and how the sharp angle is more painful than a gradual curve. And he keeps coming back to that over and over and over again. You can tell that he's that's really sitting with him in the moment. And again, he's still, I don't think he's there yet. When I listen to his voice and when I watch the video, which I have a link in the notes for you to watch as well, you can tell that he's not at the finish line telling you about how he's arrived. He's walking this path with you. This is again, for somebody that you might think of as a joker, not very serious, kind of, kind of a bro podcast and blah, blah, blah. I see a side of Theo Vaughn in this conversation, in this unpacking of his own story and journey with his dad. I see a different side of this guy. And I think that we can learn from everyone at all times if we just keep our radar up and be more attentive and listen, no matter who's talking.
And just like, just judgment and how my judgment keeps me away from others. I can feel it sometimes even still today. I know I'm not doing good when I start getting real judgmental. Because judgment keeps me away from you. It keeps me away from someone. Oh, look at them. Look at that. Oh, look, they're like that. Oh, they have that. Oh.
It's interesting how judgment and regrets are joined together. And if your relationship with your dad, speaking to you as a son or a daughter, if your relationship with your father is based on your judgment of them, just remember that father of yours is still learning how to become a father. Even when you're in your 20s and 30s and 40s, he's still living his life trying to figure this out. And he doesn't have the answers to every question. And he's hard on himself when you're not around for not being who you need when you needed. Those regrets he carries with him every day.
And they think the whole life you think, oh, I'll just keep judging and keeping people at a distance. But guess what? There's this thing in the distance making you think, oh, that you win somehow, that I win somehow by doing that. I'm not saying you, I'm saying me. But then I get to the end of my life and I'll realize, you know what? I didn't win anything by doing that. That was a trick. And the only thing I won was being alone or being less connected to others, And not only did I miss out, could I miss out on caring about people, but I missed out on feeling probably a lot of the love that people had for me. When I can't love someone, when I judge and I keep someone away from me, I keep me away from them. I keep me away from them.
So my question to you as we come close to Father's Day and this month around, focusing on dad, from a kid's perspective, you as a kid growing up with your dad, talk about with him, if you still have the opportunity, talk to him about your relationship and the space there. The judgment, the resentment, the regrets, all that stuff. This might be the perfect time to have a receptive audience for a conversation like this. And use Father's Day as an excuse to have this kind of open dialogue with dad. And for dads, to also think of your kids in the light of your example to them and your availability to them to have this conversation. You, as a dad, might be making it very difficult to even have this kind of dialogue. So how can you make it easier for your kids to talk to you about this? It goes both ways. It goes both ways.
I'm just saying, I know that if I'm resentment about something, if I'm angry about something, I need to go look at why I'm angry about it. And if I can eventually find a way that I had some say in it, then at least it's in my control. So instead of being angry at my dad because he was so old and I didn't get to a proper father-son relationship, instead I can take a little bitty piece and say, oh, well, you know what? When I was like 15, 16, I could have probably been a better son at some points.
I like how Theo's taking ownership over this as well. It's not always, well, my dad screwed up. My dad's the problem. My dad, and putting it all on his father, which is really not fair because his father's no longer here with us. But he's owning his side of it and expands on it a little bit more here as well.
Then it puts a little bit of it on me. Now I can have ownership of it. And now I can go apologize, at my father's grave if I want to and let him know. And not that I'm like, because then it just gives me ownership. Now I'm in control of our relationship again. And now I can rebuild memories. And now I don't have that. Now there's no anger between us anymore. Now it's an opportunity for us for my brain and heart to be like, oh man, good. That right angle ain't there. That right turn, that stoplight, those 7 stop signs you got built up at this intersection of your emotions, it's not there anymore. And it's just a beautiful curve, man. And you can feel the love. You can feel the love, man.
Go right back to the curve again. You can learn so much from others. If you put your radar up, you live life with intention, allow people to pour into you and give you the things you need at the most opportune time. And again, my hope for you as we enter into June and Father's Day, that if your relationship is strained, that maybe those strands can be strengthened. If your relationship is completely destroyed, then from a son to a father, maybe you can refocus your attention to your kids. There's a lot of opportunities here for us to all be better. And it's not always the other person's fault. It's not always how they've disappointed you. There is this neutral ground where we can meet and we both make steps toward each other. And in that, we find what we need for better relationships between dads and kids with dads. No regrets. A realization that time it's fleeting. It's not something guaranteed to any one of us. And we need to make the most out of every moment we have. Happy Father's Day month. Happy Father's Day. And as you celebrate with your dad, whether he's with you or not, whether the relationship is strong or it's not, just remember that the one lesson that we can teach our kids is to have pride in our family and to understand that that is one of the things that we can build a relationship on and build a history around and remove a few regrets in the process.
I could have had more pride. I wish somebody had taught me to have more pride in my family when I was young, because I didn't know.
So thanks for being here. Thank you for listening to Dad Space. I really, really appreciate you being here. If this is your first time or you're coming back and back and back, it's great. Now, I am on a mission to talk to as many dads as I can through the show and connecting with you. You get to hear my voice by pressing play. I want to hear your voice by going to dadspace.ca and leaving me a voice message. I'd love to hear from you. And I'm on a mission to talk to 5 dads every month. 5 dads. 30 minutes maybe, tops, where we get together and just talk about maybe what you're getting out of the podcast, maybe how I can serve you in the content or with guests or topics, and just to hear from you. To hear from you as a listener would be outstanding. So go to dadspace.ca. There is a link right there where you can click on it and you can jump into my SpeakPipe link. It leaves a voice. You can leave a voice message, which comes to me in an email. I can respond to you directly in voicemail, or I can have you maybe even come on the show as a guest. It's completely up to you, whatever you feel comfortable with. But I'm here for you, and I'm so grateful that you're still here listening to this. So go to dadspace.ca and either let's get you on the show or you and I sit down with the calendar invite on my website and let's just have a conversation, one dad to another. Thank you for listening. And thank you for being here. Take care.